mention math instruction, what types of emotions arise? I'm sure it's varied. Perhaps you experience excitement and passion because math is your strength. Or perhaps you experience anxiety because you struggle with math. Or perhaps you are neutral and just see it as another thing to do. In talking to homeschool moms, I know that many of you experience anxiety, frustration, and dread. In today's episode, I will give you some practical ideas and things to think about as you plan your math instruction. Hey, homeschool mom, I'm Erika Sagert on the Intentional Homeschooler podcast with more actionable steps and encouragement for your homeschooling journey so you can confidently and intentionally homeschool your children without sacrificing your sanity. Grab a pen and paper, your favorite cup of brew, and let's get started. Math instruction is a common topic of conversation at our learning center, and I come at math with my own varied experiences. At the end of the day, no matter what our experience is, we want to build a strong math foundation in our students. As we think about math instruction, let's consider the importance of math so that we can clearly define our why. I talk a lot about defining our why in everything we do because the why helps us to find our way. If we don't really know why we're doing something, we're not going to be as motivated to do it and to spend the proper amount of time on it. So, why math? Well, there are many practical reasons of why. First of all, it is required. It is a school subject that we are told that we need to include, but much more than that, there are many practical life reasons why math is important. Some of the obvious ones are they help us to grow in our problem-solving skills or practical skills like basic computation for creating budgets, checking accounts, investing, saving, even cooking in the kitchen with our different recipes if we're doubling a recipe or whatever. So basic computation. Also, learning how to follow a formula. Math can help us to appreciate music. It can help us even in drawing or shooting three-pointers or designing a fast car for a Pinewood Derby race. I have an example for that one. When my kids were little and they were in Awana, creating Pinewood Derby cars was the highlight of the year at our house. My husband found it fun to work with the kids to see how fast they could make those cars. Well, one time, my brother, who happens to have a physics degree and is a math wizard, was over, so he was working out math problems to show us how to make those cars faster and what techniques would actually help give the cars more speed. So he was showing us how math was helping in Pinewood Derby races. It can even help in skateboarding. But anyway, the point is, math is all around us, and it's really important to build a strong foundation in our students. Math even helps us to sift through different perspectives. It helps to organize our chaotic thoughts. It helps us to be more creative, and it can show us how to think rationally. These are all important life lessons. I have several thoughts and ideas for you today when it comes to your math. First, I want to talk to you about the development of math in our students. So when teaching math or when learning math, there are 3 stages of math learning. These are very important to keep in mind. Even though math is an extension of our natural language, there is math language that is unique to math. So it is a language that must be learned in a sequential way. So there are 3 main stages of math. The first one is concrete. So concrete, like we can hold it, like it's something that we can see. So in math, that would be materials that we use in teaching math, things like Unifix cubes, base 10 blocks, pattern blocks, M&Ms, anything you can think of that is concrete. You use those things to teach those math concepts. Even water in the bathtub, when kids have measuring cups, they're playing with the water, that's concrete math. They are exploring and investigating liquid volume when they're doing that, or sand in a sandbox, etc. all kinds of things concrete. So it's really important for students to camp here for quite some time in the concrete stage. Now, after the concrete stage, students move to the pictorial or representational or kind of semi-concrete. So you move toward, you move from the Unifix cubes and the manipulatives and the concrete items, and you move them into a pictorial or representational aspect. So drawing pictures that represent the concrete objects or using tallies or dots or circles, things like that. So that's the middle stage. And then the final stage is abstract. So that's when you can use only numbers or mathematical symbols. You're not using your fingers anymore. You're not using manipulatives. You're just using numbers and mathematical symbols. So again, first, concrete. Second, pictorial or representational. Third, abstract. Now, these are all very important to keep in mind as you are taking your kids from the beginning to high school level math. It's important to go through all of these stages. So take your time in these stages as you move through them. Don't rush. Spend plenty of time in each stage before moving to the next. Remember, we are used to, as adults, we're used to the abstract, right? We already know numbers and mathematical symbols, but they don't. That's abstract. It's not a language that is known naturally. It is taught. Much of the concrete seems like play, but it is in a sense, measuring cups and things like that, but it is definitely giving them a good sense of math knowledge. So those are the development: concrete, pictorial, abstract. The second thing I want to talk to you about is curriculum. So, as much as possible, I encourage you to choose a curriculum and stick with it. Don't be bouncing around to lots of different curriculums, because as I'm sure you can imagine, different curriculums present the math concepts in a different way. So every time you switch curriculums, you could be restarting or starting at a different place, and they present things in a different way. Now, if the curriculum is just absolutely not working, okay, by all means switch, but just pretty much choose that math curriculum and stick to it just as much as you possibly can so that they get a strong foundation in their math. Something to keep in mind when looking at math curriculum is there are two main types of instruction for math curriculums. There's the spiral approach versus the mastery. So spiral, think of a spiral notebook, how the wire keeps coming back around. So in math instruction, what spiral teaching is you introduce a concept, then you go back and you review some of the old concepts, then a new concept, and then you review. And then mastery is basically you work on a topic until you master it completely, okay, and you stay on that one topic. I say I like a bit of a combination of both. I don't think either extreme is good. Spiral can be really frustrating for students who master things quickly and they have to keep coming back to review when they don't necessarily need it. However, mastery type programs can be frustrating for those kids who need more review. So gauge your students, watch them, and see what you think they need. I believe everybody needs a certain amount of review, but too much review can become busy work for those students who have a solid grasp on a topic. So watch your kids and also be looking. I'm not going to talk about specific curriculums so much today. I'll probably do that in a different episode, but just be looking at that as you search for different curriculums. You'll see those words, spiral versus mastery, and I say find one that has a little bit of both. So yes, be careful as you choose your curriculum and stick to it as much as you possibly can. The third thing I want to talk about is that when choosing math curriculum, they are not all created equal. So there's lots of different curriculums out there, as I'm sure you know. It's a good, bad thing, right? So many choices that it can be really difficult to choose. But I want to encourage you in elementary, I'm going to say K through 8. There are a few, I'm just going to name a few: Right Start Math, Singapore, Horizons. Those are just 3. Right Start Math and Singapore have a lot of manipulatives. They spend quite a bit of time in this concrete stage, which I find very, very, very important because it will build a strong foundation in the area of math to begin. So you want to have that strong concrete aspect before you move on to the representational and abstract. So I would also encourage students, as you're working through math and doing your math curriculum, talk through what they're learning. Talk to them about how they're coming to their conclusions, how they're finding their solutions. Don't be afraid to let them explore different ways to a solution. This is actually great in all kinds of math. A lot of times at the beginning of your math lessons, it would be great to have mental math time or present your students with a different math problem and let them figure it out without explicitly telling them how to do it, to see how they can come to a solution. Now, I know we hear a lot about Common Core math, and a lot of homeschoolers talk quite negatively about it. And generally speaking, I'm not a fan. However, I do like the aspect of helping students learn to come about solutions in different ways. It helps to develop their creativity, and it also helps them to really understand what they're doing when they're working to come to some sort of solution. Of course, we're going to teach them some formulas and some techniques and some ways to do this, but it's also good to help them to just use some thinking skills to see how they can come up with their solutions. So anyway, encourage them to talk through how they're coming up with their conclusions or their solutions and let them explore that. So again, in elementary, please make sure that you're choosing a curriculum that's very strong in the concrete and then moving to that pictorial before going to the abstract. If we jump to the abstract too quickly, students are going to miss the skills that they need to be proficient in math. Now, in high school, 9th through 12th grade, typically a student is going to take Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. In the state of Washington, the minimum requirement is Algebra 1 and then 2 maths above that. So there is some flexibility there. It used to be that it was a requirement to do Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. However, that has changed, and as of this recording, I should say, things are always changing. But just so we have Algebra 1 and then 2 maths above that. I highly recommend a statistics and data analysis class if possible. We see so many statistics in medical arenas, political arenas, all over, and I believe statistics can be highly manipulated. So it's very important for students to understand statistics and to be able to analyze them. So if at all possible, that should be part of one of the years of math. Also, I think a personal finance, consumer accounting, or math is critical as well. So keep in mind, if your student is college bound, that's community college or university, they are going to need to take a college level math class. No matter what they major in, they will need at least one math course. So you're going to want to set them up to be able to take that math placement test. Those are typically quite challenging. So keep that in mind when choosing math for your high school students, especially. College-bound students, I really recommend the typical Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. That will set them up for that college math placement test and will help them get through that if that is the way they're going. And another thing to keep in mind with high school curriculum is that not all curriculum is created equal. Some are definitely more challenging than others, and some will prepare your students more completely than others. There are some curriculums out there for homeschoolers that are pretty lightweight, so choose very carefully, read the reviews, and I'm sure you'll find something that's just right for your family. The fourth thing I want to mention is to get help along the way, especially in high school. Perhaps you're strong in math. Excellent. Find a homeschool family that you can help. But if you're not, like a large percentage of us, if you are not strong in math, reach out. Get some help for your student. Have your student take a class at a learning center like Hope Learning Center, a co-op, or some other option in your area. Or trade with a fellow homeschool family. You have something to offer. I am sure of it. So find a family that's very strong in math and trade your expertise for some math instruction. Also, as I'm sure you're aware, the internet is full of wonderful resources, some free and some paid. So look up YouTube. There's some amazing instructors on YouTube. There's a platform called IXL where you can have your students review and practice specific topics in math. And then there's always Khan Academy. Those things can come alongside whatever curriculum you are using to give your students some extra support. So there you have it. So for math, number 1, keep those developmental stages in mind, concrete, pictorial, abstract, as you're teaching your students. Make sure you build that strong, concrete foundation. Number 2, as much as possible, choose a curriculum and stick with it. Number 3, remember, not all math curriculum is created equal. Choose wisely and carefully. Read lots of reviews and make sure that it covers what your family needs. And 4th, get help along the way. You will be glad you did. Let's have students that have a very strong math foundation so that they are well-rounded individuals. If any of this resonates with you, you have further questions, or you want to find out about the work I do at Hope Learning Center, book a virtual coffee chat with me. The link to my calendar is in the show notes. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as right here, where a brand new episode will drop every other Thursday. Until next time, you've got this, Mom.